Hi, I'm Jim Clark, Visual Arts Manager here at Hopkins Center for the Arts. Today we're speaking with Lou Ferreri about his exhibition, The Internal Affairs of Mr. Invincible. Invincible? Did I get that right?
Invincible.
Mr. Invincible. On view now through August 1st, 2026 in the Redepenning Gallery. Lou, welcome.
Thank you. And I am just delighted to be here. And before we start, I just want to, you already know this probably, but a lot of this show and the way it looks and the way it worked out is because of Jim. When I came in here, I thought, okay, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to hang these. And I was telling Jim, and Jim said something like, I don't think so. But then somebody said to me, you got to listen to Jim. He knows what he's talking about. Yes, he does. And so anyhow, thank you.
That's very kind. That's very kind. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Lou, this show, it's an immersive experience. Overwhelming in the best sense, I would say. For me, it's maximalist, it's dense, it's I would say phantasmagorical. Mm-hmm. It represents 20 years of drawing.
Yeah.
In two pretty distinct phases.
Mm-hmm.
The first 10 years, large scale, large format charcoal drawings on rag cotton, Reeve, BFK paper, like the one behind us.
Yeah, and these are smaller than the ones that I generally have done.
Tell us about the size.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I was hooked on this idea of the physicality of working large. And so these charcoal drawings, I was doing, they were 4 feet wide by 8 feet high. And it was great for a couple of years, and I had a lot of success with it, and I was lucky to be recognized by the McKnight Foundation for it. And I had to stop doing it because if you ever work with charcoal, and the way I've worked with charcoal on ladders and with blackboard erasers and wearing a face mask, I was in a shower one time and I started coughing, and this charcoal came out, and I thought, okay, maybe that's the end of the series. So that's really how it ended.
I was going to ask that, and you answered it.
Yeah.
And that shift,
10
years in many ways, kind of a hard left, because you're going from a dry, friable medium to ballpoint pen, acrylic paint, and a shift from cotton rag paper to New York Times editorial pages.
Right.
And there's a lot of questions to be had. I mean, it's almost overwhelming, like the experience is, to even grab a handle for the entry point, because it's really all over the place. But from a material standpoint, there's a lot to speak about in the poetics and the content of the work.
Yeah.
But from a nuts and bolts perspective, working on a non-archival ground, does that give you pause at all? Or have you run into any friction?
It did for a while. But I was, let's see, what do you call it? The Minnesota History Museum took a set of 25 prints from me, and it was great. I was really excited about it, and I was talking to them about the work that I've done on newspaper, which the prints were a result of, and I was telling them how I said, okay, this is cool. Get this, and the newspaper will eventually turn brown. And maybe in 50 or 75 years or 100 years, I don't really care, but it's going to happen. And it's already happening. But then, if you have one of these and they're framed, and suddenly it turns brown, but a piece flakes off and falls to the bottom of the frame. And then as time progresses, more and more pieces fall from the paper, and it just becomes a pile of debris at the bottom of the picture frame. And I was saying, that's kind of cool, right? Because it's part of the evolution of how the process of art works. And so, so he said, I appreciate that, but don't ever tell that to an archivist.
Yeah.
So anyhow, that's
Yeah.
how, you know, I know. I actually like the fact, I mean, I didn't go out of my way to choose the New York Times. It happened kind of accidentally.
Okay.
And how, so after the charcoal drawings, I was thinking about a lot of things I'd been painting, and nothing was really clicking. But I can tell you exactly, in Thanksgiving in 2010, my wife and I were having a horrible time. It was a terrible Thanksgiving, and I spent the whole Thanksgiving at the kitchen table trying to deal with problems and writing notes and kind of just trying to figure stuff out. And at the end of the Thanksgiving weekend, I had this pile of doodles I had made all over these New York Times, because I got into, while I was suffering, I was liking the buttery surface of ballpoint pen on newspaper and thinking, so I didn't know what it meant or what to do, but I cut out a whole bunch of pieces of these little doodles that I had made, thinking that sometime this is happening for a reason. So I took them all and I put them in an envelope, and they sat in the envelope for about a year, and I kept thinking about, you know, in the process of art making, and I had this thing in the back of my head, and what's going to happen? Where's that going to go? And so I ended up doodling on New York Times without any objective, just wondering what would happen. And then a crucial moment, and this, you may have found this yourself, like a lot of times you run into a material that dictates the direction that you go in. And I don't remember how, I think it may have been these guys at Wet Paint in St. Paul who suggested I try this new material that they had, these pens. They were called Mulatto acrylic paint pens. And if you've never heard of them, they're remarkable tools for drawing. And it's acrylic paint in this cartridge. And so I started working with it, and the color was fascinating, and I discovered it was really opaque, and I needed that for the newspaper, and especially for pieces that I didn't care for, and building on it, and so right now I probably have, I don't know, 25 or 30 of these in a stack in my basement, because they just really didn't work. I mean, they worked. I suppose if I look back on it 10 years from now, that I think, oh, these are kind of cool. But somewhere along the way, something clicked, and I started to feel very comfortable exploring on these pages and letting things evolve in ways that I could not possibly anticipate. And so I ended up, you know, that was like 11 years I did that. Mind you, I know this looks like a lot, but this is drawing 3 to 4 hours every night. That's what I do. I still do that. It's like I can't sleep if I don't do that. And in fact, so I brought, you said crib sheets. I went to grab this because it took me a long time to learn this. And I know a lot of you know this. Paul, I know you know this. I ended up writing, this is in addition to the end of this artist statement that says, authentic art making often happens when the process of exploration takes you in directions you didn't know you wanted to go in. And you know that. I mean, it's just the way it is. Like suddenly it's like, wow, I really like what I'm doing here. I didn't know how I got here exactly, but I'm going to stay with it. So, and you know what? I haven't worked on the newspaper stuff now for quite a few years. And I look at it now and think, how the hell did I ever do that? And I don't know if I could go back to it, although I'm tempted because I really like showing them. And I like the fact that there's the narrative aspect of the drawing, but also the New York Times headlines that sometimes influence where I went with the drawing. And you know, I don't get that unless I have, so I don't know. We'll see. Yeah.
Related, and you answered a lot of my questions already.
Yeah.
Thank you. But I do want to expand on some in that you mentioned that your work is expressive of both your personal experiences and worldly influences.
Right.
And when we've got the newspaper, and we look back earlier to the charcoal works on paper, you've got highbrow, lowbrow, middlebrow, Easter eggs,
Right.
we'll say,
Yeah.
allusions to Little Lulu,
Right.
Betty Cooper of Betty and Veronica,
Right.
Archie and Jughead,
Right.
Easter Island, Guernica,
Right.
so it's all over the place.
Right.
And do you feel like, do you consider the proportionality of these universal kind of touchstones, we'll say somewhat universal, at least culturally, and the personal things, because it runs the gamut to things, content that is deeply personal about medical challenges.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you consider before you go in, this is going to have Mickey Mouse?
Yeah.
Or
Good question.
does it just occur? Because they seem like
question.
automatic drawings.
Yeah.
Like doodles,
Right.
on supercharged doodles.
Right, which I'm
In that-
doing now.
Yeah, they've got, and I mean that in the best possible way.
Right.
You already mentioned doodles, so
Right,
yeah,
right.
I didn't think you take it as pejorative.
No, not at all. No.
But it has in a doodle freely exploratory.
Right.
But at some point, it must also congeal into something more than, I'm on the phone kind of doing this.
Yeah.
And now, much like this show, I'm asking 3 or 4 different questions all at
got
once. But the universal kind of pop culture references and your personal things, do you think about the proportion at which you're imbuing each work with? Yeah.
No, that's perfect. I get, and you're leading me into something I'd really like to talk about, which is what your authentic self is.
Yeah.
And what are the influences that you find that bring you to where you happen to be? And it's really hard to, okay, let me just do this.
Yeah.
This, I don't know if you can't see this drawing.
But we'll pass it around.
Okay, this is a Leonardo da Vinci drawing called the name that it goes by generally is 5 Grotesque Heads. And my whole life, from my early days as a budding artist, I have been in love with this drawing. And I'm convinced that we all have this core kind of stuff that we're attracted to that begins in a place, and on the way out here, pardon my digressions, but on the way out here, I found myself doing what I often do before a show, and which I think a lot of artists do, is like reviewing what it is that got me here. And my attraction to that drawing, which goes back like 50 years. And it's curious too, isn't it? Because that drawing was made in 1493. Mm-hmm. And here I am talking about this drawing that happened in 1493. That's a while ago. Mm-hmm. And it's still, and in fact, there's a drawing here. It's that one that's influenced by, maybe you'd never know it if I didn't tell you, but there is the written narrative that goes with it.
The disagreement.
The disagreement. Yeah. And of course it's a total abstraction of the idea, but I didn't know it was going to go there. I didn't, when I started it, okay, maybe this is another question I could answer. I've gotten really comfortable with not having a clue about what I'm doing. It took a long time, but I just anticipate that if I keep going and I push these lines and I push these forms and these volumes and back and forth, that something will be revealed. And something that it gives me a track to follow. And my addiction to politics and personal kinds of internal affairs have led me to doing all these drawings, really. I mean, even that one, no fume, por favor. If pardon me if you're smoking and it's a habit that you do secretly, but it's really stupid to smoke. And I got in trouble for that when I was teaching, and I went on a field trip to Chicago with a bunch of kids, and part of the talk that I gave to them, because we're in Chicago on the streets, and I told them, and this kid said, well, what if we want to smoke? And I said, it's really stupid to smoke. You're killing yourself if you smoke cigarettes. We went to Chicago, and there's another drawing here somewhere that is about, Blue Man, about the trip to Chicago. It's up there, it's back there. So when we were in Chicago, I'm digressing here again. I hope you don't mind.
It's my brand, Lou.
Okay.
I'm all good.
Okay.
I'm right with you.
Okay. When we were in Chicago, one of my people who I bring along to, what do they call them? To watch over things. Chaperones busted a kid who had a pint of whiskey in her handbag. So we had rules about this and what we were supposed to do, and I screwed up. I thought I had these situations handled, but I didn't on this case. And I felt bad for her because it was a great trip. We were going to do 3 days of incredible art, and including going to see Blue Man. Digression comes around. So when I got back to White Bear Lake High School, where I was teaching at the time, this kid told her parents that I encouraged kids to behave in really horrible ways. And none of it was true, of course, but meanwhile, they had to take my keys and escorted me out of the building because they had to act on this accusation. And they called in all the students, they called in chaperones, they interviewed everybody, and ultimately, the principal called me. I was at the Art Institute with some friends on a Sunday, and the principal called me and said, Lou, I'm really sorry you had to go through this, but we had to do this. And so anyhow, the digression of no fume, por favor, don't smoke cigarettes. I don't know, but the question you asked was, where do these come from?
Yes.
And
yes.
so that's kind of where I'm going with
I remember now. You see them as a means of, as many, I think, do. Our art is an opportunity to work through traumas, large and small.
Sure.
Right? And joys, I imagine.
And joys, yeah.
Did you know from the get-go, and this is kind of the doodle aspect or the automatism, the automatic drawing. Did you know as you started that particular one that this is going to be about that event?
No.
Or it emerged?
It emerged.
Yeah.
It always, for me, it always emerges. And I think that, like good luck. You know how if something, you only have good luck if you recognize that you're having this good luck. If you don't recognize it, you miss it.
And you're prepared for it.
Right. So when you're doing art, and I don't want to tell you what you already know, but you know that stuff emerges. And then, so for me, somewhere along the way I get a clue, and I say, okay, I know where I want to take this, and then I go with it.
Is there a point?
I just want to add, there's a lot.
No, it's my turn. I'm just kidding. No, please
Okay,
add.
go ahead,
No, please.
There's a lot of rejected ones too.
Yeah.
A lot of-
Editing.
Yeah.
You're generating a lot.
Right.
I mean, it's like sowing seeds
Yeah.
to get stuff to grow, and then you kind of weed it.
Right.
Is that fair?
Yeah. Of course.
Proportionally, how many more, like for each one that's a success,
Yeah.
and that's on view here,
Yeah.
how many do you think didn't make the cut?
Early on, a lot. Early on, I'd say 50%. But I don't know. You know, as I became comfortable in this idea of letting things emerge, there's not a lot that I ended up saying, this is not going anywhere. Or, one thing that saved me actually is you had brought out this. Because when I've been lost, I resort to this kind of stuff. And you could pass this around. In fact, I'll tell you, I'll do you one better. Try this.
Oh no, please don't.
No, that's the archivist talking. Here, please. Just pass it around. It's okay. And so, the crazy thing about this is talk about the things that bring you to where you are. There's a few of them with typography. And when I was like 19 years old, I was in an advertising design school in New York and spent 2 years every day working on typography and got really good at it, but then I had no clue that it was going to become relevant, 40 years later. But I found, hey, wait a minute, I could do this, I remember. And so that's what happened. So all these years later. So if something's not working out, okay, another digression.
I'm prepared.
There's a muralist in New York who did this great mural, and it said, in a place where there was a lot of graffiti, and he painted over a lot of stuff, and he wrote, I am the greatest artist. No, I am the best artist. And over the course of a couple of years, graffiti artists would come and they'd paint over it. So he had put these words up, so they were like block letters. So he would just take a brush and he'd go back and he'd follow the lines that he created originally and cover up what they did. So in a way, they were all pretty offended, and people were angry at this guy for covering up his work. But for me, it was, I thought, this is one of the smartest things I've ever seen. And that went on for a long time, and I don't know what happened to it. But with these drawings, coming back to your question, a lot of times I get lost and I'm saved, but I say, okay, you know what? I think I'm just going to do something with words. And it's almost fail-safe for me to do that because...
Get out of jail free.
Yeah, it is like that. Exactly.
Does it always work out when you pull that? Because I feel like sometimes folks have that thing in their back pocket that they feel like is that fail-safe.
Yeah.
And then it sometimes becomes a crutch
Yeah.
and loses its power.
Right.
Has that ever happened to you?
Well, I don't do it that often,
Yeah.
I mean, I have used typography in a lot of them. But the ones that are mostly typography, like As American as Apple Pie or Donald Trump, I don't want to go there because I don't. But I don't know. I don't do it that often, but it works for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't do it a lot, so yeah.
When is there a pretty? I mean, speaking of process and fail safes, the point at which you realize you're onto something
Yeah.
and you start to develop that
Yeah.
versus kind of the
Yeah.
automatic origins and,
Yeah.
and beginning.
Yeah.
Is that, can you expect that at a
Yeah.
point in each one? And is this usually, I'll be really clumsy and say, a half an hour in,
Yeah.
or, is it time-wise, is it very similar, or does it depend on the day, your mood, what you had for breakfast?
I rely on it.
Yeah.
I mean, could you repeat the question?
But mostly,
Yeah.
well,
No.
let me phrase
Sorry.
it this way.
Yeah, I got it.
What does it feel like when you
okay.
realize you're onto something?
Very exciting.
Yeah.
And I think this is worth saying. That's what it is. And that's a problem I'm having now with my really automatic abstract drawings.
Yeah.
Because it's not really clear that I'm trying to say anything.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how comfortable I am with that. It's almost, I don't know, I wish it was a little more concrete, but I'm going to keep going with it. I probably have another few hundred drawings that are just like, do you want to pass these?
Yeah. So, tell us about these in that they relate with a similar graphic energy,
Yeah.
but they're definitely their own thing.
I appreciate, you had said that earlier, and I really thought that's great that you recognize that. The composition is in those little pieces, almost identical to all the compositions in all of these drawings. I mean, I can't escape it. It's like I'm wired that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't sure for a long time, but at least I have that. But, they're kind of cool, but I don't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
I just don't.
And the scale is different.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
So
yeah. Yes.
these, we don't get that sense of scale from the reproductions. How large are those?
Inches by inches. And that's the name of the whole thing. That's the whole series I refer to as the inches by inches drawings. In fact, I submitted one to the State Fair exhibition this year, which I had never done. But I'm just curious, I understand juries, and I'm okay with I'm good with rejection.
Not accepted.
Yeah.
We never use the I word.
Yeah. Right. That's okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know. It doesn't hurt anymore. It just used to hurt, but now it's just blah. So, yeah.
Palette-wise, I mean, there's some intense colors.
Right.
Like sometimes, super saturated. I'll say acidic in a good way. And thinking about little Lulu making an appearance.
Yeah.
And little Lulu featured in 4-Color Dell Comics back in the day.
Right.
Did you consume comic books?
You're getting me into where I'm going to just talk for a while about influences.
Well, and that's, I
Right.
want to know about influences because a lot of times folks look at those popular culture, like lowbrow, aesthetic trash. But it seems to me like you've transmuted that. And I don't think of it as trash.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Right.
But it seems like your palette is influenced by that 4-color CMYK print on newsprint, right? Because those comics were printed on newsprint.
Good point.
Is that something
That's a
that
really
you,
good point.
you
Maybe
considered?
Maybe I have to think about that. That's really good. I'm not sure. That's a fair question. I did have the experience of taking 25 of these and making color prints out of them.
Yeah.
And that was part of a state arts board grant that allowed me to do that. And I actually had the opportunity to create a book too, with 25 of these.
Okay.
And narratives. So the color aspect of it, I didn't know, I hadn't done that before. So my first experience being in Mankato at this big printing house, and they were doing these huge, because the prints are the same size as the originals, and there's sets of 25. And so I was just an idiot when I first saw what they were doing, I thought, no, this is not good, because it didn't match up to the color that I had in mind. And so I said, no, you got to redo this. So they were furious with me. They jacked up the color. And eventually, I just settled. I wasn't happy with it, but I settled, thinking, okay, I'll take it. And so they packed it all up. I brought it home. I couldn't look at the stuff for a while. But I had to eventually. And I opened it up and I looked and I thought, wow, this is great. It took a while to recognize that, but so now I have these prints, and they've gone off to different places, and some I've sold some, and it's cool. And does it all come from my early days of comic books? Maybe. Okay.
Were you drawing back then?
Yeah, I was copying Tarzan comic books.
Yeah.
That was the first time I remember. I don't remember a lot of stuff when I was a kid, but one thing I do remember is being on the living room floor with a box of pencils and crayons and this comic book and copying it, and my parents coming and looking at it and being stunned and thinking, "Wow!" And
what's that like?
That was probably why I'm here today. It's like, they were my first audience.
Yes.
And I'm a sucker for an audience.
Yeah.
And so it continued. Okay, may I just...
It's spectacular that you had supportive folks.
Yeah, really. They didn't know, but yeah.
Yeah.
They just saw it as kind of miraculous that I could... and I do remember this, and maybe some of you recall this about yourself, recognizing shape relationships and lines and being able to imitate what you're looking at. And I don't know, it must have been in the 4th grade when I did that. And that was my first recognition of. And then I went on a field trip with my grade school. This is something else that may be familiar to you guys. We were going to MoMA in New York on a field trip to see art. And I thought, okay, cool, day off from school. I don't want to go. I'd rather go anywhere than spend a day in a classroom. So we went to see this exhibition that you may have heard of because it's become legendary in art annals, called 25 Great American Artists, and it was the introduction of abstract expressionism to the world from the American artist standpoint. So we get there. And we walk in this building, there's a big, we walk up this stairway, we walk up to this floor, we come around the corner, and I walked into this room, and I was blown away, and I've written about this, that I felt like I got weak-kneed from how incredible this was. A show by Louise Nevelson and her towers. They're all painted all white or all black or all silver or all gold. And I didn't know at the time, of course, what it meant or what it would do to me. But I knew at the time that this is what I wanted to be a part of. And and so we left. Of course, nobody knew that it had influenced me that way. And because that's the way it goes, teachers, they take a chance and they bring you places like I ultimately did to Chicago on these field trips.
You were sensitive to these experiences.
I guess so.
And you a sponge.
Yeah.
And both high and low influences almost concurrently.
Right.
And all mixing.
Right.
And it becomes this.
Yeah. Well, influences. you know, like Gustave Doré, I don't know if you know his work, illustrate, great, just blew me away, still does. Or R. Crumb. R. Crumb was a great influence, and I actually met R. Crumb.
Really?
You know who R. Crumb is, you guys?
Yeah.
Okay,
Underground comics.
Yeah, underground comic. I was hitchhiking in Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco. I was sitting in the back seat in this carpool, and this guy at the side of the road, and this car pulls over and picks him up, and this guy, real tall, thin, and I don't know if you know what he looks like, but he looked, the way he looks now is the way he looked back then. So he has his envelope with him, and he's just excited as can be. And he pulls out this record album, and he holds it up, and he starts cursing, saying, I did this. This is my work. God damn it. And we're all like, okay, man, good for you. Congratulations. And, okay, so the album cover was Big Brother and the Holding Company. And that was the album that he did the drawings from. So he put it back in the envelope, and about 4 blocks later, he says, I got to get out. So the guy pulls over, and R. Crumb jumps out. And later I found out who Big Brother and the Holding Company was, and their album was everywhere in Haight-Ashbury. Mm-hmm. So anyhow, so that was quite the digression, wasn't it?
It's a journey.
Yeah, it is. So influences. Let me just keep going with this, if I may.
Yeah. Do the Surrealists play Hilma of Clint?
Yeah,
Andre
Salvador
Breton?
Dali. Who doesn't think that Salvador Dali's a magician? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He was. And then, over the years, of course, these little things happen. But interestingly enough, I went to see a show at the Minneapolis Art Institute, and there was this artist showing these pieces. They were carved landscape kinds of things, very colorful, wood carved, and very narrative, and I was blown away by it. I thought it was one of the greatest shows I had ever seen. And dare I say, I don't want to embarrass him or anything, but he's here today. Paul Benson. It was one of the best shows I had ever seen. And the thing about it was that I couldn't believe that somebody, the narrative aspect of the work in 3D just made me think, oh my God, this is so much value to this. And I'm a 2D artist, which, by the way, I always wished that I had learned how to be a welder.
Is that right?
So I could be outside and have, instead of working on newspaper, I'd be working with steel.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's so many more. On the way here, I was thinking about all these. Every show that I have comes to where you review. How did I get here?
Marley Call?
Yeah. Any of you know Marley Call? Marley Call was originally my teacher. His first year of teaching, he showed up in Bemidji State, and I was a junior. And he really was just learning how to teach. But he was also a terrific artist, and to make this long story short, he became a very close friend. And we ended up sharing studio space at the University of Oregon, because I went there for my MFA. Turned out that he had applied to go there because he didn't have it. He was teaching college, but he didn't have the degree, so he needed to upgrade. So he went there. So we ended up sharing studio space together for 1.5 years. And his work didn't directly influence me, but this book, if you go online and you Google Marley Call, you'll see how really brilliant he is, and was, because he's passed now. But yeah, so you know his work.
Yes, I know him and his wife, because I lived in the ridge.
Right, okay, Sandy.
So you went to BSU?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm going up to see Sandy next week, actually. Yeah, yeah.
How about other work? Like you've got these are abstracted, distorted, but there's recognizable imagery. What are some of the other things you engage in?
You know, I used to envy artists who their work started in a place and then you could recognized it for their whole career. It never really changed. I mean, it changed, but in different ways. And I am all over the map. And even now, I've got these giant paintings that I really like, but I don't know what I'm going to do with them. I mean, you can pass those around.
We've got some shots in the studio.
Yeah.
You know, and
so these paintings are, I don't know if you know the artist Jerry Rudquist. He's a Twin Cities artist who taught at McAllister for decades. And Jerry died, and I knew his daughters, and I happened to be looking for large canvases. And I posted on Facebook that if anybody knew how I could get a hold of them. So one of his daughters responded and said, you know, Jerry has a whole bunch of canvases that he didn't get to paint, and you're welcome to them for a price. So I said, how much? And the price was absurdly good. And so I bought like 8 of these canvases, 5 by 7 feet. And yeah, that's some of them. And there's a few in there from way back that were 6 by 9 feet. And but as you can see, they're all hard edge. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to explain how I went from hard edge, from these to the scribbles, to being hard edge. But you know what? I think the composition's right on target. It's the same. It's just different. It's the same, but different. Mm-hmm. So, did that answer your question?
It does. Do you feel like, I think of that as cross-training.
Yeah.
Like you're flexing different muscles and that they're complementary.
Yeah.
Do you find that to be true? Do you think that your work, your graphic work, like the work on display here, influences those non-objective paintings and vice versa?
Deliberately and not deliberately.
Yeah.
It's just part of, again, you know, it's like I'm hardwired to behave in a certain way. We all are. Mm-hmm. And we're all going to go in the direction that we go in, not really knowing for sure, you know, what it's going to be and what's going to follow it. And in fact, I even had to photograph this because I knew I'd forget this quote that I occasionally something pops up in my head and I think, hey, I got to remember this, but I won't remember it. So, okay, the idea is holding faith in the hand I was dealt with. I can't change the fact that, you know, I go in all these different directions. It's who I am, and it's going to...
Is that you, or who said that?
Me, yeah.
That's good.
It is, you know. And, you know, it's kind of a funny deal. Like Marley Call and myself and a few other artists. I don't know if you know Not Only Locally, the band, and Jim Miller. Did you know Jim Miller, by any chance? A great musician, great songwriter, and a really close friend. And...
Did you say Jim Miller?
Huh?
Jim Miller?
Yeah.
And Christy?
Yeah, Jim and Christy. Well, Jim also died, but we have remained really close over the years. And the problem with digressions is you often forget where you were going.
Lou, to pull it back, maybe, the non-objective paintings, is that the current work? Is that what you're working on right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, both. Okay, so there's one in there. Oh, so I could talk about this influences. Construction sites, that's what they're... I find construction sites to be a, not a palette, but a departure point, for playing with color in any way I want. And, you know, that's really different than these, because these, the color was, you know, purposeful for some narrative or other. But with the paintings, it's just abstract color. So I'm not really all that secure about, you know, what I'm going to do with them. I've got some proposals out there for showing, and if somebody says, cool, let's do it, it'll be great. But if it doesn't, I don't know what will happen to them. You just don't know.
Yeah. Let's open it up to questions.
Sure, good
Okay.
point.
All right, Lou. I was wondering if you would consider taking a certain amount of the big ones here and making it into a book with the narratives.
Oh man, that's my next proposal to the McKnight Foundation.
Let me know when you make that book.
Yeah, because
I'll be the first one to buy it.
I really want to do that. And you know, all the written parts of these, I'm fortunate to have an editor that I live with who, you know, I can write stuff and it's kind of random, kind of sensible, kind of not. And she says, you know, wait a minute, this is not, makes no sense. And so she helps me a lot. So, and I could see there's a lot of ones here I'd like to write about yet that I haven't gotten to. So the book is in the cards if they go for it. But the McKnight Foundation it's tough because when I got my first one, they had 280 applicants and they chose 4.
Wow.
So how, you know, what are the odds? And then 2 other times I was a finalist, semi-finalist. And they came to my studio, looked at my work and said, no, sorry, you're out. But you know, that's what I mean about it. It's okay.
Not accepted.
Yeah.
So did you apply to a bunch of different places that could publish this, or just
Well,
one?
the thing about the McKnight Foundation
Yeah.
is they bring $25,000 to the picture. Other places say, you know, we'll give you $1.95, but you got to do it on your own.
Oh, no. You
know,
need somebody to do it.
I need support.
Right.
And in fact, if any of you care to jump in, you know, financially, you know, you'll automatically get 3 free copies, and you could choose 3 drawings as your choice. I just made that up. That was pretty good. So yeah, your question?
You've got a lot of different material here. And one of my impressions is this is the biggest HIPAA violation I think I've ever seen. And my question is, this is deeply personal stuff where your life, you know, you don't know going into bypass surgery whether or not you're coming out the other end or not.
Exactly.
You hope so.
Right.
How do you get yourself able to expose yourself in this way to just put it out there? I mean, you're on the living side of it now, but still.
I think generally speaking, I have always had this weird positive attitude about passing through these things, and luck has been a big part of it, and I would not, I mean, I accept the luck, and again, the cards I've been dealt with, and you know, it's personal, but it's also, you know, you bringing it up. I mean, it's kind of universal, you know, for all of us. I mean, you know, how many of us talk freely about prostate cancer? You know, people don't bring it up. It's not like, you know, they don't say like, how is your prostate cancer?
Well, it works if you want to clear a room.
You know, so, but it's also food for doing what I do. You know, these experiences, and some of them are more meaningful than others. And I mean, look at this poor guy right here with the ropes around his face and the mask, and this was done during COVID, and how COVID impacted all of us and isolated us and tied us up in a, you know, we're all bound by this thing that was killing an incredible amount of people, and I don't even think people to this day are willing to appreciate that 1 million people in this country alone died. So, anyhow, yeah. And then the one with the heart shape and the sails, and the 2x4s going through it, and on a boat, and these are all just aspects of an idea that has to do with vulnerability, clearly. Vulnerability is a big thing. Yeah.
Speaking of vulnerability, I'm wondering how, as you've moved through your life here on Earth and you've been here longer, because I think about that a lot, how that kind of affects your work as you've gone through, and how that affects what you're doing now, and it just feels there seems like there's more vulnerability as we are here longer. And anyway, I just was
I've been
wondering.
talking to my wife about this quite a bit, because turning 80 had a different kind of impact on my thinking, and I'm still feeling like, wow, 80. I'm the oldest, as far as I know in my family history, I am the oldest person to have ever lived. What do you do with that? Am I going to make a drawing about that? I don't know.
Or are all the drawings about that?
Right. They kind of are. You're right. They're kind of all about that, Yeah. I just looking around here now, being reminded of, why I, like that one there with the red hat and the magnifying glass, and it's called Start Here. And this is something that we all, go through when we're making art, And when I was in graduate school, I was scared to death. I showed up, and there were a whole lot of people there who were way more experienced than I, and way smarter than I, and more articulate than I thought I could ever be. And Paul Sarkeesian, have you heard of him? Anybody? Paul Sarkeesian how old am I? Paul Sarkeesian in the 1970s was an international art star. He was in all of the art magazines, and you may know his work he was famous for having taken photographs of the fronts of buildings and houses, and then having done drawings the same size as the house. And so he was on campus, he was hired to do a residency, and he showed up at our studio, and I knew he was coming, and I was scared to death. What am I going to say to this guy? And I had, in order to avoid actually working and revealing myself, I had built all these beautiful 20-inch by 20-inch canvases and stretched them and sanded them, and I thought they were great. And I had a big stack of them, but I had no idea what I was going to do on them. And Paul Sarkeesian walks into my studio and says, "Hey, what's up?" Panic. I said, "Paul, I'll tell you the truth. I'm here and I'm lost. I don't know what to do with these canvases, or where to start, or how to approach it. And, I have no confidence about any of this. And, I don't know what to do." So Paul Sarkeesian took a tube of paint and put it on a palette and a brush, and he messed up the paint, took a canvas and made a big red dot in the middle of the canvas and said, "Hey, start here." And he walked out. And I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. It was a long time before I realized what he meant. And, the idea of just starting. Mm-hmm. So that's that drawing, start here. And I didn't know I was going to do that, but
It emerged.
There's so many things that are relevant and topical, obviously with the newsprint
Yeah.
and some of the issues. I wondered, as far as promotion and social media, when I look at a lot of these, I'm thinking that very vertical orientation. Do you do any kind of TikTok or any kind of Instagram, or is that something that could be in your future?
Facebook has been really good for me. Instagram, I couldn't get them to fit in that format. But fortunately, I have a 20-year-old niece. Which we all need one of those. We do.
Perfect.
I know. When I was high school teaching, that was, I'd have a problem with something and have a classroom full of kids, and I'd say, "What? Hey, I don't know." And 4 kids would run up, and they'd all know how to fix it.
You have a production assistant, a
Oh
studio
yeah.
assistant
Oh yeah.
to
So
post.
Instagram.
Yeah.
So she figured it out for me. So now on Instagram, I have about 40 images that were formatted to fit. But I don't know, you can't, what are those sites good for? You can't, some people are fortunate to be able to sell from them. I haven't had that kind of luck. It's always been shows that I've sold out of. But social media, all I can say is on social media is, hey, this is what I'm doing. Let me show you. My favorite thing is the kid with show and tell.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm still doing show and tell.
Lou, do you want to tell us what you did over summer break?
Yeah. No, thank you. Yeah.
So I have a publisher in mind that might be interested in promoting this show and potentially producing a book, and I think they're called the New York Times.
I've tried to contact the New York Times, but they have a firewall.
Keep
that
going.
I don't have. I can't get.
Keep
through.
going. Get your niece on it. I'd say keep going, because this is a feature article in the New York Times Sunday art section. It's online.
Yeah.
It's a potential book. They publish beautiful works of art and books, and I would not, just don't turn back. You've done all this work throughout your whole life, and
Yeah.
this collection is amazing, and it would be a book that they would relish. I would just keep digging. Keep digging. There's no R word. There's no rejection. It's just like as soon as you get the dead end, you go, okay, that person's off the list. Who's next? Who's next? Who's next?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried and I quit, but I appreciate that. And if you got a name for me to call, or have them call me, or go online and look, I'll jump on anything.
Yeah. Don't give up. It's a perfect story.
I think so too. I really do. Yeah.
They might want to take a little credit for it.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
sorry, my what?
They might want to take a little credit for it. They might be invested.
I'll give them all the credit I don't care. They can have,
It's not really a question, but it's a takeoff of what we were just talking about. In your Instagram or your Facebook, do you tag the NYT, the New York Times?
No.
Tag them. Tag them, because then that goes to their messages that they have been tagged, and someone
Oh.
might be looking
Oh, I'm going to
out
tell
for
my
that.
niece to do
You
that.
betcha. You've got a 20-year-old. Get on that.
And thank you, by the way, for helping. And JJ, is she here?
JJ's here.
Hey, JJ, thank you. Thank you.
Lou,
Hey, yes. Paul
we've
Benson,
had
everybody.
lots of conversations
We have
about this
talked a
kind
lot.
of thing.
Yeah.
And one of the things I want to ask you about is, from my perspective, it would seem that there's a significant amount of art that's so preconceived.
Mm-hmm.
And I know by looking at your work and listening to you talk over many times that you don't subscribe to that. It's you subscribe to the flow
Yeah.
that comes out of you regarding your materials, your experiences, and what you want to express. And also the just dynamic force to create.
Yeah.
And can you talk about that at
Yeah.
all? You know, just
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like you have no choice.
Right, exactly.
But that we relate to on that level.
Yeah.
And it's such a powerful gift you have that way.
You know this because I know your work, and talk about preconceiving. It's true. I'm afraid of preconceiving because I fail. When I preconceive something, and I think, I'm going to do this, I can't. I'm not good, I can't. Some artists are really good at it, and I respect that, but I'm not. So if I have an idea and I start with it, it's not going to work. I know enough to know that it's not going to work. So instead, I don't think about it, and I put it aside, and I just proceed. And I think, you have, like, if you don't know, Paul has all these, collects stones and wood and metal fragments and stuff on the street and stuff from friends, and he sees stuff and he says, oh, I can do something with that. But it never is what you think originally it's going to be. It becomes something else.
Well, this is something that I think we share.
Yeah.
And it's important to me because it's like, I keep saying it, it's like a river that's flowing.
Right.
And you just immerse yourself in it. Right?
Exactly.
And then you don't even make decisions.
Yeah.
As it happens, as long as you're open, patient, and engaged, I suppose you should say.
Right.
And you're in that flow, and that's how they get created.
And you know this too, reserving judgment. Like, instead of saying, this sucks, I can't, you don't do that. You just go further. Go beyond this, what sucks. And when I was teaching, I used to tell kids all the time and say, if you're in that place where you think something's not working, ignore that and go past it. And I felt like, for me to give that advice to kids, that was a gift for me to be able to give that.
I was talking with a friend recently, and given our age, which we're similar, he was just mentioning about living with the dichotomy that actually exists, because you've mentioned it too. It's like, man, this is really good. And then there's another voice on the side that says, why are you even doing this shit?
Exactly right.
You just landed on the cutting room floor, Paul.
Pardon?
Yeah, I've got a lot of that.
Forgive me, audience.
Paul.
But
I've got a lot of that on those doodles, those ones that were going around. I don't know how to propose these in a way that somebody, I'm going to say, okay, pay attention to these doodles. How far is that going to go? I'm not sure I don't know where it's going to go.
Well, I've talked to you this before,
right?
And I could see one of these wonderful, wonderful drawings done on a large scale.
Yeah.
It's just like the gentleman you mentioned with the dot in the middle of the canvas.
Yeah.
Just
start.
Just do a line.
Yeah.
And it would be gestural, and it would be all-encompassing.
I've been giving a lot of thought to that, a lot. And I'm at this place right now where anything could happen. Question?
Yeah, Lou, from a process standpoint, do you, for instance, on your charcoal pieces, do you start in on that paper, or do you work out studies ahead of time or some?
That's a good question. Yes, no, I don't. Studies, I can't. I'm not capable. I can't. If I do studies and then I think I'm going to transfer that to, I can't. So all of these charcoal drawings, and I wouldn't recommend this as a method for making art. But especially with charcoal, because it's messy. And so, I would start by making lines, and there were things I would rely on, like I knew if I put a line across, it would suggest horizon, whether it was a horizon or not. And then verticals and diagonals, I knew about that, like a lot of diagonals suggesting energy, verticals suggesting stopping. Those kinds of things would move in and out of my head. But ultimately, there would become a point where I would say, okay, I see where this is going. And then I really grab onto it. And then it would all make sense.
I had this drawing teacher once who asked me, what are you going to do in the background here? And I had no idea.
What are you doing in the background? Yeah. Yeah. I know. I had a teacher once say to me, where's your light source?
Light source police. They'll get you. Right here. Yeah.
Right here. Yeah, really. I know. Yeah.
We've talked about it, but the richness and the depth of your work. I'm wondering whether you feel like the depth of your work is increased over your life because of all the experiences and thoughts or have you always just kind of...
Yes. I mean, you get better. If you keep doing stuff, you're going to get better at it, no matter what. You just are. And it reminds me of this quote from this guitar player who said, Doc Watson, Doc? Mm-hmm. Doc Watson once said, they asked him about his guitar playing. He said, if you do stuff long enough with your fingers and your hands, sooner or later something's good's going to come out of it. And I think that's true.
But the depth of the art that comes out of you, has that changed over the decades that you've been a practicing artist?
I don't know. I think, again, intuitively working. Maybe it's just becoming more confident that whatever it is you're doing will get you somewhere. And except that now, look, I'm doing these drawings, these doodles, based on watching my 2.5-year-old grandson draw and thinking, God, can I do that? And trying to do it. And that's what those are. And I don't know if I'm doing it or not. And I don't know how, you can't get shows and make proposals based on the idea of having a 2.5-year-old influence. It has to have substance, that is more life substance. It's easy for me to propose these for shows. And I love art centers because it's been my bread and butter for a long time now, rather than galleries. And I don't even care about galleries anymore. I just love the fact that art centers and the audiences like you and people that happen by, and the fact that the shows are up for a month, that's fabulous. It's a gift. And so, I don't know.
Lou,
yeah.
Thank you for sharing your work with our community.
Jim, thank you for setting this up.